Tackle Junkies, what's going on, fellas? Today I'm going to show you guys how to get the most out of each cast by matching your lure weight to your line to your rod. Alright guys, before we get into the video, I just came out with Tackle Junkie 81 t-shirts. I have both of my logos, so two different shirts to choose from, short sleeve and long sleeve. We also have tall and bigger sizes as well, so pay attention when you order to make sure you're getting what you want. But if you guys would like to support the channel, definitely check out the shirts. I'll drop a link down in the description as well as in the comments. And how it works is the site is open the first 2 weeks of every month, then the site closes the last 2 weeks of the month to be able to make the shirts up and ship them out. So it will take a little bit to get the shirts, but this company is right down the street from me, so I'll be able to keep in contact with them to make sure things are getting done. But again, I'll drop a link down below. Definitely check them out. Hope you guys enjoy, the new gear. All right, guys. Today's video is based on a comment that I got on one of my videos, how to teach anyone to use a baitcaster without backlash. It was a great question, and instead of just replying back to him, I thought it'd be easier to do this in a video, and it could help out others as well. If you guys haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. Tons of tips and tricks in there. Really, if you set it up how I do, I mean, anyone can use a baitcaster like I show in this video. But his question is, it's from T, if I'm saying your name right or wrong, I'm sorry, but I believe it's T Bizzle for show, I believe, okay? I appreciate the comment, and it says, first time seeing your video, liked what I saw, but I have a question. When you speak on balancing your line, rod, and lure, do you have a basic guide to this? I know there are numerous combinations to this, but a basic guide would help. I grew up on cane poles and old Zebco reels. Baitcasters is what I would like to progress to. I like keeping it simple, a rod, a line, and maybe three to five different lures with that particular setup. Thanks for what you do. I subscribed and will take notes. Take care and God bless. Great comment. Again, let's go ahead and answer this for him right now. Now, I have 3 rods here to my side, okay? Typically, guys would use a medium power, a medium heavy power, and then a heavy power. Okay, I have 2 medium heavies here and then a heavy. And the reason being is the specs that are on the rod. With all these rods that I have here, guys, I only have like 2 medium power rods, which are cranking rods. The rest are medium heavy, heavy, and things like that. But again, there's a lot of different specs on those rods, which is why I use different ones for different situations. Okay, but let's just go ahead and act like this is a medium power rod just because the specs are similar, but that's going to be the thing to take from this video. Pay attention to the specs on the rod. Now, this one here, I've talked about many times. Again, this is not, use whatever brand works for you. I'm just saying the brand. A lot of you guys do use this rod. So this is an Akuma TCS rod. It's a 6'9", medium heavy. It's got a little bit slower tip to it. Okay, this rod loads at 1/8 and maxes out at 3/4. This rod here, since it loads such a light lure, is what I use for lighter lures, okay? So, on a baitcaster, you can toss lighter lures, again, but you need to match lure weight, line to the rod. And since this rod does load at 1/8, again, this is why I throw lighter lures on this rod. But again, you need lighter line just because the lure is not that heavy, so you need a light enough line so the lure can pull it out. So you wouldn't want to put 20-pound test on this rod with an 1/8 ounce jig thinking that you're not going to backlash and get a long cast. It doesn't work that way. Lighter lure, lighter line for a lighter rod. And this rod right here is normally what I throw my underspins on. I'll throw a little, 1/8 ounce, underspin with a little, 4-inch exo swim and be able to bomb it out with 10-pound tests. I've done that in videos. You guys have seen that. Okay, that's my setup for little underspins. Okay. Speaking of exo swims, I don't know if you guys see my post that I made on Instagram and Facebook. Biospawn's coming out with a smaller size and a bigger size really soon. Keep a lookout for that. Biospawn.com. You can get them at Karl's. Again, if you do buy them at Biospawn.com, use code TJ81. TJ81 to get 20% off. Again, I make nothing on that code. That code is for you guys. I really do appreciate you guys watching the video, so I would like you guys to save some money. Again, hit the link, save some money. There you go. Again, I'll drop a link down below. Anyways, this is the rod that I throw lighter lures on. So if you did have a medium power rod, most likely medium power fast action, most likely it would load at 316 and probably max out around 5/8 or so, give or take. You know, it just depends on companies and all that. But again, this particular rod, 1/8 to 3/4, and I like to keep on this rod. Usually, I'll throw 1/8, usually to 1/4, so maybe 3/8. It really just depends what I'm doing. But if you're going to start out light, this is the rod that I would throw, like, weightless Senkos on, again, small jig heads, things like that. Now, if you want to, you can step it up to a higher pound test on this rod. You can still throw, 15-pound test on here and throw a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait if you want, which I do that from time to time just because the rod can handle it, and it really is a fun rod to toss spinnerbaits on. But again, this rule of thumb on this rod for me, normally, and this will go for a medium power rod for you guys, you normally, 10 to 12 pound test. And again, I keep it from 1/8 to 1/4 ounce lures on this rod. Every rod's got a sweet spot. And for this rod, that, again, depending on line size. But for me, I like 1/8 to 1/4 on this rod, 10 to 12 pound test. Again, you can do many different things with it. Light Texas rigs, light jigs, again, underspins, smaller spinnerbaits, things like that. But that's what I'd like to toss on this rod with 10 to 12 pound test. Okay, moving up. Another Kuma rod here. Now this is the one I have, again, many videos on. This is probably my most versatile rod, which I have videos on this rod. Again, I'll link them down below. This is a Kuma EVX. It is a 7'2", medium heavy, fast action rod. Again, one of the most versatile rods that I own. Now this rod here is 1/4 to 3/4, so it loads at 1/4. So on this rod, you wouldn't want to put an 1/8 on here just because that's not enough weight to load the tip on the back cast. When you come forward, most likely that lure is going to nosedive right in front of you. You'll have a backlash. You at least need to meet the minimum load rating on your rod. Okay, so again, 1/4 to 3/4. And for me, again, on this rod, normally I like 12 to 15 pound test. Most likely 15 pound test is what I toss the most, or use the most with this setup here. And I mean, the baits are endless that you can put on this combo. Spinner baits, chatter baits, swim jigs, Texas rigs, jigs, Senkos. I mean, you name it, you can put it on this rod. So on a medium heavy, fast action rod, and again, it really depends, cover that you're fishing around, maybe the size fish that you're targeting. And I do have another video on that subject as well, which I'll link down below. So I'll put a bunch of links down below where I've explained this better. I don't want this video to be too long for you guys, but again, check out the links down below and you'll be able to, have some more info with other videos. But typically, on this rod, 12 to 15 pound test, me personally, I like 15 on it the most, and, lure weighting anywhere from 1/4 to 3/8 is what I like on here. Probably 3/8 is the max. Again, every rod has a sweet spot. Normally, when I step it up to a 1/2 or heavier than that, I go to the heavy power rod. But like I said, 15 pound test, 1/4 to 3/8 is what I really like on this rod. No doubt it can handle a 1/2 or 5/8. Again, it maxes out at 3/4. So you can put all the way up to a 3/4 on this rod. But for me, I really like a medium heavy fast for 1/4 to 3/8. In a pinch, I'd throw a 1/2 on there again just because it can't handle it. But when I go to a 1/2, I like a heavy power rod. But, that's what I would do with a medium heavy fast action. All right, from there, again, we go to the heavy. Now, this particular rod, it gets a little confusing just because, one of the main reasons I switched to Kuma rods is just because the tips are a little bit lighter. They load much lighter weights. Okay, like this one here is a heavy power rod. It's got a mod fast action to it. It loads the 3/16. So you could put, a little 3/16 ounce jig on this rod, just fine, just because it will load it. That being said, when you go lighter on a heavy power rod, you still need to match the line to it. So if I'm going to try and throw a little 3/16 on this, 3/16 ounce lure on this, I may go to 12 pound test, maybe 15 pound test. It'll handle 12 to 20. Okay. So, you do need to keep that in mind. But typically when I grab this rod, I'm going, 1/2 ounce, sometimes 3/8, but normally 1/2 ounce and up is what I like this rod for. It handles 1/4, fantastic. If I want to throw a 1/4 ounce swim jig on 50 pound braid, this is the rod I go for. It's an awesome swim jig rod. But again, You just need to match the line with the lure weight. Again, it all depends on the rod specs, but kind of a rule of thumb, a medium power rod, 10 to 12 pound test, eighth to a quarter is what I like. Again, it'll handle more. That's just kind of what I like. Medium heavy fast, 12 to 15 pound test, quarter to 3/8. And then when I go to a heavy power rod, 15 to 20 pound test. Again, I will throw lighter, sometimes I will throw heavier, but a rule of thumb for me, 15 to 20 pound test on a heavy power rod, and normally, half ounce in heavier. Again, this depends on the rod specs. Again, and you need to pay attention to the rod specs, especially with your line and the reel that you're using. Like if we go back to the medium, or the medium heavy, actually it's medium heavy for me, this is where I'm kind of relating this to a medium, but like this rod here is 10 to 17 pound test on this particular rod here. So if you put on, 6 pound test, the rod's a bit too stiff for it, most likely you'll break more fish off, okay? And if you put on, 17, okay, if you put on like 25 pound test and you lock your drag down, your close quarters, and you're pitching and flipping a jig, something like that, again, you got your drag lock and you set the hook, okay, something has to give, okay? And since you're using a line that is heavier than what the rod is rated for, there's a chance that you could bust the tip off, okay? And that's no different too with the lure rating. If it's rated 1/8 to 3/4, if you put on 1.5 ounces and you try and cast it, when you come forward, that's more weight than the tip can handle. Okay, so there's a good chance again you could bust the tip off of the rod. So again, pay attention to the specs. If you stay within the specs, you'll be okay on the rod. All right, guys, that's a little guideline, kind of a rule of thumb. What I would follow as a beginner. The better you get, then you can put heavier pound test, with a lighter lure, things like that. It's all experience, and really it's all in the reel too, which that could be another video. If you're trying to throw, light lure, light line, you don't want a reel that can handle a ton of line, because that makes the spool heavier, which again, that's more weight that light lure has to pull out. So that comes into play as well. Again, that could be another video, but that's pretty, straightforward there. So anyways, guys, I hope that video did help you guys out. Thanks for watching. Smash the thumbs up, and we will see you guys on the next one.